back for another Couch Potato General Manager video. Drew, we have a mock draft. You and I are going to do a mock draft duel. I didn't really prep you for this one. For this one, but you're going to select for the AFC teams. I will select for the NFC teams in round one. Of course, there's been a lot of changes since the start of the new league year. One of the most memorable off seasons that I can recall in recent history. I mean, the amount of trades, the amount of controversy, blockbusters. Of course, you have your litany of free agency signings. There's just so many moving parts, and it's not going to come to an end anytime soon. We're hearing rumblings that there may be more of some marquee names moving as we get closer and closer to the start of the NFL draft. So we just want to kind of get one round in here. We'll see how long it actually is valid, considering how quickly things are moving. But we'll get one round in here. And as I said, Drew will be selecting for the AFC teams, and I will be selecting for the NFC teams. So, Drew, get us started with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I'm being a little bit different, man. I'm gonna go offensive line. No, I'm not. I'm not going offensive line. Let me stop. I'm going Aiden Hutchinson, man.
Aiden Hutchinson,
the top guy on the board. Although some might say it's Thibodeau, but I'm gonna go Aiden Hutchinson with the high motor, quick off the snap, and good hand usage and power.
Following that up with Kayvon Thibodeau, but I'm not buying into the whole, his stock falling. I understand that he may not necessarily come off as one of those quintessential football junkies, and I understand football character matters. But when I watch the tape, I'm thoroughly impressed. Entered the 2021 college football season as my top-ranked player. He ended the season as my top-ranked player, despite having an abbreviated season due to injury. So I'm comfortable with Kayvon Thibodeau, and I really like what Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell have going here. I like the move that they made in free agency. They can stand to improve, on the perimeter offensively. They can address any level of their defense, and I think it starts with the pass rush defensively. So I'm going to go with Kayvon Thibodeau here.
All right, so next up we got the Houston Texans with the third overall pick. And I'm going to go Ekwonu. Oh, I got it right. Icky, as the offensive tackle for the Texans. We got to shore things up for our quarterback. I guess it's going to be David Mills. So we'll do the right thing. We could have gone edge, but the top two edge guys are off the board. And I was thinking about going Charles Cross here, but I was like, nah, we gotta.
Ooh, Charles Cross doing that kind of work for you, huh?
Yeah. He is. He's making his way up there, but we want to be able to run the football because this is the worst running team in the league last year. So let's shore that thing up and protect our quarterback.
Ekwonu, it is.
Next up, we got the New York Jets. As you know, I'm doing all the AFC, so we're gonna go with the. Oh man, this is tough. You got Evan Neal on the board. Right here, you can go offensive tackle with Charles Cross here. We go get you a Trayvon Walker at the edge. Ooh, what will you do as a Jets fan if Evan Neal is on the board? We're going to take Evan Neal. And I know that obviously the Jets have another pick later, and we can shore up some things with that second pick.
Okay. All right. So you're foregoing the edge position to solidify the offensive line. Of course, they went Elijah Vera Tucker last year, the year before, Mekhi Becton. Becton's coming off the injury. But then Evan Neal solidifies your tackle position. So, all right, I'm on the board. I'm back on the clock with the New York Giants. Guys, do us a favor. Hit the like button. Make sure you comment on this mock draft and subscribe. All right, so with the Giants, throughout this draft process, the draft cycle, we've been focused on them improving the line of scrimmage, on either side of the line of scrimmage, right? They need to do a better job of protecting Daniel Jones, and of course they need to be more effective in terms of affecting the passer. I'm going to go with Charles Cross because I think there's just a little bit more depth associated with the edge position at this juncture, right? And I think for me, as of right now, Cross is clearly one of the best three tackles in this class. The other two have already been selected, so we're going to bring in Cross. We're going to make that work with Andrew Thomas. I want to get the best pass protector in the class in Charles Cross. All right, so that puts me in somewhat of a predicament with respect to Carolina. Carolina clearly wants to improve their quarterback room, and they need to solidify their offensive line. I think I'm of the mindset that there is a drop-off after the top three tackles. When it comes to offensive line, I will sooner reach a little bit in order to acquire that player, but I can't do it, Drew. Me personally, I cannot go into this offseason with Sam Darnold as my QB1. I can't do it. And And I'm going to go with the guy that I've maintained is the top quarterback. Maybe not necessarily the most talented, but certainly the most pro-ready in this class. And I'm going to go with Kenny Pickett. Carolina Panthers fans who aren't necessarily thrilled with that pick, but I think they have the requisite weapons. I think they can add a veteran or perhaps a rookie a little bit later in this class to address the guard position. I'm going to kick Brady Christensen out to offensive tackle. I don't care what Matt Rule thinks. I don't care what he thinks in terms of the length of his arms. When Brady Christensen played last year, he was better at tackle. Like I said, the top 3 tackles are gone at this juncture. I think this is actually a spot where Carolina should consider trading up to get their guy, to ensure that they get their guy. And of course, if they feel that there really is a marginal difference between perhaps the third tackle and Trevor Penning, or maybe Trevor Penning is their third tackle, you can go in that direction. But I'm not leaving this draft without somebody who I think can be my starting quarterback.
So you're not trading for Baker Mayfield?
I mean, it certainly depends on what it's going to take. I mean, you can certainly kick the tires on that. In that case, Baker's going to a team with, I think, perhaps comparable weaponry that he had in Cleveland, but not as talented as an offensive line. It really depends. It really depends on what it would ultimately cost me to acquire Baker. And I think they're going to ask high. You were willing to give up a 2 and a 4 for Sam Darnold. You're going to give us more for Baker Mayfield.
I think they're looking for 2 2s is what they're looking for.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. New York Giants, Charles Cross to round out my offensive line. I'm back on the board here, and I'm going to keep it simple. I'm going to go with Trayvon Walker, one of the risers of the risers. Him and perhaps Jermaine Johnson. Probably be comfortable going with either player here, but I'm going to go with the upside and the makeup of Trayvon Walker. Jermaine Johnson certainly is part of that conversation, though. I make no mistake about it. And I got a bunch of picks in a row, man. I got 5 picks in a row, man. 5 picks in a row. And I got the Falcons on the board. Now, of course, they missed out on the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, and they have since moved Matt Ryan. So what do you do here, Drew? I'm going to ask you, before I make this selection, I have an idea as to the direction I want to go. Of course, they've acquired Marcus Mariota. What would you do here? Are you trading down? Are you going to just take best player available and then look to the CJ Strouds, perhaps, the Bryce Youngs of the world in 2023? What's your thought process here?
I mean, they went out and they signed Marcus Mariota, so I think it was a 2-year deal. So that's a guy that we can run it and see what happens. The team it's probably the worst rostered team in the league right now. And when you have a team that's that bad, you do one of 2 things. And if there's not a top quarterback that you like that you want to go and get, at this point, you just draft best player available, or you trade down as many times as you can, trying to just gather picks. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So in this scenario, obviously, we're not trading down. So I'm going to take best player available, and I'm going to get me a Kyle Hamilton, and we'll run it with that and keep it moving.
I certainly understand that, and that has been my mindset. Mm-hmm. through much of this process. I think what a lot of teams are trying to do, and I think it's prudent. Is that you go and you get your rookie, and you play with that rookie contract. Before that quarterback gets that big money, then you can spend. To build it around him. You can obviously continue to draft, but you can spend an inordinate amount of money to really bolster the roster and leverage that rookie contract. Your team has to be at a certain point. You understand what I'm saying? And I thought Atlanta really should have considered going quarterback last year. That class was better for my money. That was a better class compared to this year. I don't think this year's class is terrible, as some people have made it out to be. But certainly I thought last year's class was superior to this one. Do you kick the can down the road once again? Because again, you want to take advantage of the rookie contract, but you don't have the horses. You don't, at least in year one. And of course, it's not, we're not necessarily playing for just 2022 here. So my thought process is between, all right, do I get Malik Willis and do I allow him to kind of be an understudy, develop while we round out this roster a little bit, and perhaps in 2023 we have a more competitive roster to deal with, and of course we certainly have the money. We get from under that dead cap hit of Matt Ryan and Julio Jones and all of that, and now we're in a better position to really bolster this roster, make a quick turnaround here. I'm tempted. I am tempted. Here's the thing. I don't expect Willis to get past 9, but part of me wants to go and start outfitting this roster with the talent. So when I do drop a young quarterback in, he can have some success, and I can make those 1 or 2 big free agent signings in order to be competitive immediately. So I'm actually going to go with my top receiver in this class. I'm going to go with Garrett Wilson right here.
Oh, Garrett Wilson pulling the trigger?
Pulling the trigger. And again, I think you could go in a couple of different directions here. Certainly the Kyle Hamilton situation makes a lot of sense. So you can make the case for Malik Willis here, certainly. But my focus is going to be adding talent to the roster, get it to a certain point where I feel like when I drop that quarterback in on that rookie contract, I can make 1 to 2 big free agent signings. You know what I'm saying? Perhaps overpay, right? And then we can hit the ground running, really take advantage of a rookie contract. So go with Garrett Wilson there. And this one is easy for me. I mentioned Malik Willis. After trading Russell Wilson, I'm not doing the Drew Lock thing. I'm not doing it. So Malik Willis is the guy.
You're going to get it to DK and Lockett if they're both still there.
Assuming they're still there.
All right, man. Next up, we got the Jets, man. And it fell right in as I thought it would fall, man.
I know.
Perfect, man. I appreciate you, looking out for me. You already know, man. Go ahead and get the edge from Florida State. Jermaine Johnson, do the right thing. Opposite Carl Lawson. Let's run it. You projected your quarterback with the first pick. Now we're going to hunt the quarterback with our second pick. And hopefully you get back a healthy Carl Lawson to pair with Jermaine Johnson.
Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Guys, be sure to hit the like button, right?
Yeah, man.
Comment. If I screwed that Atlanta Falcons pickup, let me know. Let me hear about it, right? And make sure you subscribe for all of this content, all this NFL draft content. So I'm back on the clock with the Washington Commanders. Commanders have done little beyond trading a few third-round picks for Carson Wentz. With the top 2 quarterbacks on my board, off the board, I'm not going to go there. I am somewhat tempted to go receiver to pair up with Terry McLaurin. Drake London would be that guy for me at this juncture. Obviously, he's a big-bodied receiver, but there's certain things that he does after the catch that simply can't be taught and is not necessarily common with a receiver at his size, at his length, his body type. But I'm going to stop the quote-unquote Kyle Hamilton slide at this juncture. That back end of that defense, it's a lot of young players on 1-year deals, or rather, very few young players on 1-year deals back there. Of course, no Landon Collins. The other thought process I had here is perhaps moving Trevor Penning in here, right, and playing him at guard. Mm-hmm. I am considering that with Brandon Scherff and Eric Flowers out, but I wouldn't be. I think there may be a chance, or rather, I think that's a position that you can address a little bit later, and you may be able to find an additional veteran to come in there and compete. So it is a thought process, but with Kyle Hamilton on the board, I think this is a relatively easy decision between him and Drake London. But I'm going to go Kyle Hamilton. And back on the clock, the Minnesota Vikings, 12th overall pick. They have been largely associated with corners. Of course, they made the decision to re-up with Kirk Cousins. If you checked out our Inception mock draft, you'll hear our full-blown discussion with respect to that. Not necessarily a fan of that, but it is what it is at this juncture. Let's go get a quintessential cover 3 guy and Ahmad Gardner here, man. One of the stingiest defensive backs in this class, and for a lot of people, cornerback number 1. I think there's some things that he needs to work on. I think there's some technique issues, but you cannot teach that size-speed combination. He has great ball skills, and I love his tenacity. So I'm going to work with Gardner. All
right, man. Next up, we got the Houston Texans with the first pick. Obviously, scooped up Icky, and I'm thinking, can we go receiver here? We know Lovie Smith is the head coach, defensive guy. I'm looking at Devontae Wyatt. I know he's going to run the cover 2 system. You need that 3 technique. That's the main cog in that whole system. Does he have that on this team right now? As far as I know, I don't see it. Somebody let me know down in the comment section if they got a guy of the talent of Wyatt or someone similar on that line. I don't think they do. We could go edge here. Man, this is tough. Was there talks of trading Tunsil, Laramie Tunsil?
Yeah. There have been some talks, but I don't think they can afford to do it. He's the only lineman that's signed beyond 2022, if I'm not mistaken. Unless they've added somebody, and I'm not aware of that. I think in terms of entering the offseason, he was the only lineman on that roster signed under contract beyond 2022. So I don't think they can afford to do it, especially after everything.
And we could go corner too. Yeah, that's true too. We could go corner here, and the system that Lovie plays is the cover 2 system. he's a stubborn coach. I don't see him coming out of it. So you don't need top like corners, but you need guys to be where they're supposed to be. I think Derek Stingley would actually work well in this system.
Okay.
Although he can do the man or the zone, either way. I think we'd probably like to have him better in zone, keep his eye on the quarterback, keep his eye on the receiver in front of him, and make his move then. So you know what? I'm going to stop the slide. I don't know if it's a slide, it's 13, or it's Texas picking at 13. But I'm going to stop the slide. I'm going to go Derek Stingley Jr., cornerback. Okay. I'll scoop him up here, man. I was really wanting to go Devontae Wyatt, but I'm gonna go with the corner position.
So where are you? Where are you with Stingley right now in terms of your evaluation as far as where he slots in among the corners in the class? Corners, where are you with Stingley?
Got Gardner number 1.
Okay.
I have Booth Jr. number 2. I have Stingley number 3. I don't think I can drop him lower than number 3 because if we get freshman Stingley, he's the best corner in the draft. But it's if we're gonna get freshman Stingley, or we're gonna get injured Stingley, or we're gonna get I'm not paying attention Stingley. That's the big thing, right?
So let me ask you this. So you have Booth over Stingley. Booth is your second ranked corner in the class, and then Stingley. Why not Booth here?
I'm on the seesaw here, man.
Okay.
You know what the seesaw?
Okay. All right. I understand.
In this particular mock, I'm betting on Stingley.
Freshman year Stingley.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. There's not a whole lot separating those two players. And to your point, it sounds like you have Booth over him because Booth has played better recently compared to Stingley. But perhaps Booth hasn't played at the level that Stingley has at his peak while he was at LSU. I certainly understand that.
All right, man. Next up, we have the Baltimore Ravens at 14, and I have them selecting. I was kind of going back and forth. I'm big for these guys. I'd like to add another receiver, a guy who can be reliable. But I was thinking, we got to go defense with the new defensive coordinator over there. They lost a corner or two over there. They replaced a safety. They brought in Marcus Williams, which I really, really like from the Saints. That man's got crazy range and can actually allow them to do the things that they like to do, which is, blitz and leave guys out on an island. He's a guy who can make up for some mistakes on the back end. And I was thinking maybe corner, but because you got Marcus Williams, I'm not going to go corner. I'm going to go with the position that gets to the quarterback the quickest. I'm going to go with Devontae Wyatt, defensive tackle, interior guy for Georgia.
So that's your top 3 technique, right?
Right now, yeah. I ain't giving it away. I'm not giving it away. No. Get it. Go.
I love Devontae Wyatt. I had not seen Devontae Wyatt to Baltimore to this point, but I think when you think Baltimore, you always think about the edge rushers, right? You think about Sizzle. Sizzle's a guy that comes to mind. You know what I'm saying? That's the guy that stands out the most historically. But even as the years have gone by with Zadarius Smith and the various guys that they've brought in, it's always been trying to get that pass rush via the blitz and via your edge rush. I think being more effective in terms of penetrating, getting upfield within the interior could really transform this defense to a certain degree. So I like the pick. I'm not anticipating Wyatt that early, but I do kind of like that pick. I think perhaps trading down a few spots and then grabbing Wyatt might be good as well. Yeah. All right. So
that's probably what they'll do.
Yeah. So we have the Philadelphia Eagles on the board. We got 3 picks, 2 of them back to back here with 15 and 16. But before I get into those, guys, make sure you hit the like button, comment, and subscribe to the channel for us. Really need you to hit that like button. Make sure you do that. Hit the dislike button. You know what I'm saying? If you're not feeling it, hit that one. You know what I mean? Let us know. The Philadelphia Eagles have done a lot here recently in terms of re-signing their own players, right? I think that perhaps their biggest loss to this juncture, all things considered, is Brandon Brooks. Of course, we didn't see much of Brandon Brooks due to injury, but Brandon Brooks became one of the better guards in this league when he went to the Philadelphia Eagles after the Houston Texans, of course, let him go for Bill O'Brien. Anyway, back to the Philadelphia Eagles. This pick, I am locked in. If he's available, don't hesitate. Go ahead and make the pick. Let's get Drake London, pair him with my guy Devontae Smith. We got Dallas Goedert at the tight end position. Really give Jalen Hurts, that big catch radius, somebody who can go up there and make a contested grab for him. Let's go get Drake London. All right. So after the Drake London pick, I'm starting to think more along towards the line of scrimmage. I'm starting to think, okay, we need to shore up perhaps our aging lackluster pass rush is a direction that we could potentially go in. Offensive side of the ball, I mentioned, Brandon Brooks. Is his replacement already on the roster? Perhaps, but I also think it's an area that you could stand to improve. They did bring Jason Kelce back. As I mentioned, they made an effort to bring back quite a few of their own players who were considered unrestricted free agents. But I gotta go get my guy, man. You talk a lot about how much zone they play. You know what I'm saying? I think there's a guy that I really like who played a lot of zone at the college level. You mentioned it. He's your cornerback too. He's my cornerback too, or perhaps maybe my cornerback one. I don't know. I think he got some man-to-man chops here. But when you talk about ball skills, I think he's peerless in the class. I'm gonna go with Andrew Booth right here, man. Play him opposite Darius Slay.
I like it. With the 17th pick, we got the Los Angeles Chargers. And these guys have done a ton in free agency. And some would say early on in free agency, we would have said, man, it was one free agency day one, right out the blocks. And I would give them that award. But they got some things they still gotta fix here.
Sure.
And a guy that I would like to see go to them, and a Jordan Davis could go there. I mean, they did do some work in trying to improve that interior defensive line because that was an eyesore for them. But that offensive line, if this guy is there at 17, you run it up. You don't talk to them. You knock Roger Goodell over. You bring it to the podium and you call the name yourself. The hell with the way they do it traditionally, where he's calling the pick. Let me just call it myself because this is the guy we want. And Trevor Penning, offensive tackle. And if you need to kick him inside and guard, we can do that too, man. Let's just get a guy that we know is going to be a plug and play guy. Period.
Yeah, man. Bully, nasty. I think this Chargers team needs some of that.
Yeah,
I don't think there's any issue in terms of the skill on this team. I think there's plenty of talent. I think they need some attitude. I think they really need some attitude, and I really like this pick. All right, with the New Orleans Saints on the clock here, of course, they have brought back Jameis Winston. They too were in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, missed out on him. So they re-up with Winston. Winston is expected to have made a full recovery. He should be back. Of course, it will be Sean Payton, but that team had a dearth of weapons. It had a dearth of weapons, and we cannot afford for that to be the case moving forward. This is a very impressive class of receivers at this juncture. They do expect Michael Thomas to be in the fold, so you do have your quintessential possession guy who's going to soak up targets. I want somebody who can take the top off. You can either go Chris Olave, smooth with it, excellent speed, or you can really get dynamic here with Jameson Williams. I can't pass it up. This has been an eyesore for a long time with the New Orleans Saints. I know they have some other issues, but the board just doesn't match up with it, particularly along the offensive line at tackle. I'm going to opt for the upside in Jameson Williams, although I think Olave's floor, all things considered, is a little bit higher. I'm going to go with the upside of Jameson Williams here. And now I have the Philadelphia Eagles back on the clock. As I mentioned before, they re-upped with a lot of their players, including Fletcher Cox and Derek Barnett. I think this team could still use some more teeth. They could definitely use some more teeth along the defensive line. The second level of their defense has been an issue for an extended period of time. There's a player that I really like that I'm considering. I am somewhat conflicted. I like Jordan Davis. I like George Karlaftis. I like Boye Mafe here. I like all those players, and I think any of those players, all things considered, are worthy of this pick at this juncture. But I'm sick and tired of what I see from the Eagles on the second level. This is a deep class, a very deep class in terms of the defensive line. It is fairly deep at linebacker as well, but I don't think there's a guy in this class that gives you quite what Devin Lloyd gives you in terms of being able to play all three downs, attacking the line of scrimmage, playing in coverage, being a pass rusher, because you're looking for that. Let's get some of that pass rush out of the second level. A little green dog, allow him to come off the edge from time to time. I think he can start to make this defense truly dynamic. And again, this class is deep enough where you can really get some immediate contributions from young players along the defensive front, even if you don't address it in the first round. Again, I'm perfectly comfortable if you go in that direction here and certainly understand it. And some might feel that is the priority, but I think once you get past perhaps Devin Lloyd and Nakobe Dean, I think there's a little bit of a drop off for me, more so than on the defensive line per se. So Devin Lloyd's a pick.
All right, so next up we have the Pittsburgh Steelers with the 20th pick overall. And if this guy is on the board, right? This guy I'm thinking about is on the board. There's a couple of teams that I know probably would trade up to get him. One would be the Patriots, even though, they don't draft well. They don't care about draft picks in general. The Bills, the Cardinals, and even the Bucs. I could see trading up to get this guy who can play both center and guard, and Zion Johnson out of Boston College, who we loved at the Senior Bowl. And I know, of course, that they went out and they got Mason Cole, and they also got
James Daniels.
And I'm not high on either guy. They don't stir my tea for me. You know what I mean? And Mason Cole, if I'm not mistaken, has an out, or the Steelers have an out in his contract after this year. They'll take a bit of a cap hit, a tiny cap hit of dead money, which means
let's say $4 million. They'll say $4 million.
Yeah. So about $4 million. I mean, that they'll take that and go about their business if this guy falls to them and he works out for them in a Zion Johnson. And let me say this too. Some teams will use free agency to fill holes, right? And sometimes they fill those holes and they think, okay, we're filling this hole because the guy that we actually like, the guys that we actually like aren't going to be there when we're picking. We're not willing to trade up to get them because we got some other things that we want to do in the draft, right? A lot of times though, those guys actually fall to them, which is funny. And if this happens, I think more often than not, they probably trade out because there's other teams that are going to want this particular player, and the Steelers don't necessarily have to have him because of what they did in free agency. But if I'm the Steelers and I'm not trading out, I'm not getting the offers that I want because it takes two to tango, right? You got to draft this guy. Quarterback, I don't think you go quarterback here. If Malik ain't there and if Pickett ain't there, we can get something in the second round, man. We don't have to force anything here.
I'm with you from that perspective that James Daniels, the combination thereof. James Daniels, I think, is a guy that's going to start. Mason Cole is coming in to compete, right? But if you have Zion Johnson, he immediately he's arguably your best offensive lineman out the gate. Offensive lineman. Not necessarily, just the interior. Of course, he's going to play in the interior, but he might be your best offensive lineman on the team. So, and it's an eyesore. And of course, we understand the need at quarterback. What I anticipate is Pittsburgh trading up. I think they're going to be aggressive. They are doing their due diligence. Their presence at the pro days, the meetings that they're having with the Desmond Ritters of the world. One of our viewers commented on our Inception video, indicated that they seem to have an affinity for Sam Howell as well. I think perhaps you can be a little aggressive towards the bottom of the first round if you want to play with a fifth-year option, for example. Quarterbacks typically do get pushed up the board somewhat, but I expect Pittsburgh to trade up here or to trade down. I do not anticipate them selecting in the 20 hold. Whether they're trading up for a quarterback or perhaps dropping back a few spots and still getting their quarterback, I don't expect them to draft in the 20 hold. That being said, I don't necessarily have an issue with them drafting Zion Johnson either.
All right, man. Next up, we got the New England Patriots and the New England.
Indianapolis.
You know what I mean? Gotta smash it together. The New England Patriots we have with the 21st pick. And listen, we could go corner here, although they did re-sign Malcolm Butler. They brought him on back. They made up. Him and Belichick, they kissed and made up. So
same
things
thing with
are
Trent
good
Brown.
there.
Trent Brown's back, bro.
Trent Brown's back. They worked that out, got that figured out. So my question would be, do we go corner here because we lost J.C. Jackson, but we brought in Malcolm Butler? Or
Butler ain't the same.
Do we
I'll tell you that.
No, he definitely ain't the same. But or do we go receiver, man? Because we need to help out our quarterback who we drafted last year. And I see a receiver that I really want to select that I really think would be a good fit for New England. I love Treylon Burks. He's my receiver one. I just think that with the way New England wants things to be, they want finished products almost there in New England, man. They want guys that can come in and contribute immediately with no worry of, hey, man, he's not getting it or, he's just not polished enough. And I think Chris Olave is one of the most, if not the most polished receiver coming out from Ohio State. And he's got a little speed behind him. And I think he'd be a good fit in New England.
You stole me with the Chris Olave pick, but I'm okay. I'll get over it. I'm going to go Treylon Burks. Damn that combine, damn the pro day. Yeah, he's a little rough around the edges in terms of some of his route running, and of course, Rodgers is going to expect certain precision, but they got to figure out just a way to get this guy the ball, and he can do work. You understand what I'm saying? And they're hurting. They are hurting after the Devontae Adams trade. Of course, they got the draft capital back for him, but that's a huge blow. That's a huge blow, and they just don't have enough weaponry on this roster. With a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers, I've said it many times to this point, you should be pushing your chips all the way to the middle of the table in order to compete for a championship. And they've been on the cusp. They've been on the cusp, but they just never got that guy in addition to Devontae Adams in the passing game that we would have liked. So we got to mitigate that. We've taken a step further back with respect to the receiving room to this point. So I'm going to go with Treylon Burks here, man, and watch him continue to develop. I think the Cardinals have some issues. I think they have concerns along the interior of their offensive line. They certainly could stand to improve their pass rush. I think they are lacking at the corner position. There's some good players there. Defensive line, even though, typically we're anticipating a 3-man down line. Jordan Phillips, J.J. Watt, still can make plays, but it's coming off the injury once again. It seemed like almost a foregone conclusion in terms of addressing the interior of the offensive line based on the performance of Kyler Murray and their challenges during that playoff game, right? That they had no answer for that interior pass rush. But they really have issues, I think, at perhaps every level of their defense, particularly their down line and the secondary. So corner is also in play here, but I'm going to go with Jordan Davis. Then Jordan Davis, as we talk about him, yeah, the counting stats might not be there. I'm going to go on a limb. I'm going to make sure that he has the conditioning necessary because 35 plays ain't going to cut it, man. It's not going to cut it. You know what I'm saying? I need you to be approaching 50. I need you to approach 50, man. And I know that's a tall order. That's a tall order, but he is a special athlete at his size. And, of course, he made everybody's life easier in Georgia. Again, this is a departure from what I've typically done, but he going to have to play 3 downs in Arizona because the cupboard's a little bare. I think the Cardinals have a lot more work to do than I think we really had considered going into free agency. Now that free agency has been underway for several weeks now, and this looking at the makeup of this roster, they have some holes, and I think they need to build it inside out. They have the Dallas Cowboys on the clock, and my initial thought process throughout this offseason has always been, you want to try to keep the offensive line intact as much. Connor Williams, we knew that wasn't going to be there. Perhaps kick La'el Collins into guard, start Terrence Steele, and I think you got something. You really got something there. Steele has shown recently that he can hold down the right tackle position, and I think Tyler Biadasz is a better player between La'el Collins and Zach Martin. But of course, that fell apart. Collins is now in Cincinnati. Had they been able to kind of resolve that issue, rectify that, I think you can then address the defense, whether you go defensive line or perhaps going linebacker to free up Micah Parsons to be more of a full-time edge rusher, moonlight as linebacker, and spend more time as a pass rusher. But they have too many holes. They have too many holes, and I think considering the amount of resources you put into the running back position, what you're paying your quarterback, you need to be able to protect, and you need to be able to open up holes. And I think Kenyon Green can have somewhat of a similar impact on Tyler Biadasz, again, playing between a quality left guard as well as, a future Hall of Famer in Zach Martin. I think that makes your center play better, improves the entirety of your offensive line. So Kenyon Green is the pick for me here.
All right, man. Next up, we have the Buffalo Bills. And, I really want to go corner here. I really do. But I'm with CPGM Juice, and I can't watch the Edmonds anymore. I'm done. Not when I have the Kobe Dean, who's just a lot more.
Substantially?
Substantially. Yeah. I mean, it's not even close in terms of instincts and just being able to read and react and see things in front of him, what's happening, and make a play on the football versus just kind of waiting for it to happen and then reacting versus, okay, this is coming. I'm going to be here to stop it. And that's Dean. And we're going to go ahead and select Dean. I know people are probably going to kill me because they're probably saying corner, but
I love it, bro.
We got to go Dean because he's going to add a little bit more kick and spice to the defense than Edmonds ever did. And we were waiting for Edmonds. We tried to tell Buffalo fan, you know what I'm saying? They got infatuated with the size and the speed and all that stuff. And instincts at linebacker is probably the number one attribute, ability that you have to have at that position, because a lot of things are coming your way and a lot of things are happening behind you and in front of you. And if you can't, respond accordingly or even before accordingly, those things, then, you kind of a lame duck out there, man. So I think Dean would sure that up there. Next up, we have the Tennessee Titans, and I'd love to go quarterback here, but I'm not going to do it. We're not going to force it. You know how I feel about your boy Tannehill. I think he's going to be the cog that holds this team back. Receiver probably would have been the get to go here for me, but they went out and they traded for Robert Woods, and which is lose Julio, who didn't do much last year due to injury, and I think he's just kind of
I think it's caught up with
starting to get the injuries and everything, and all that stuff. So went out and got them a Robert Woods, who's actually coming off of injury, but I think he'll be fine. For the Titans, I was debating, man. I was really debating, and with them signing Ben Jones, that kind of takes Tyler Linderbaum off the list there. You know what? I'm gonna go with Boye Mafe.
I like it.
I'm gonna go with him, who has a little bit more.
You just double down. You double down.
Just double down on the edge. You got we going Mafe, man. I think he's one of the big risers in this draft. He had a great Senior Bowl. It's a guy who kept popping off at the practices, and when you watch him on tape, he just continues to. He's a guy he's just so explosive. First step, twitchy. And he's a guy who's figuring it out, man. And I think he's gonna be a steal, even if he's picked here at 26. I think he's gonna be one of those guys who are like, man, why did he get picked so low? You know what I mean? He's probably he has the potential to be one of the best edge players coming out in this draft.
Certainly could see him come off the board a bit earlier. With the Titans re-signing Harold Landry to a long deal, of course they have Bud Dupree. It's not a pressing need, but I like it. You know what I'm saying? When you have that kind of talent, you're a playoff team. You know what I'm saying? Yep. You got a lot of really good quarterbacks filling up the AFC. You don't have a great quarterback. You need to be able to affect the pass. You need to be able to send waves of pass rushers. So particularly when you're selecting later in the first round to get a player with this kind of upside at one of those premier positions like edge rusher, it makes sense to me. Even though he's not going to get necessarily a full complement of snaps, there's not going to be this tremendous drop-off when Harold Landry or Bud Dupree need to come off the field. And then, of course, we have a 17-game season now. Attrition comes into play. Guys get hurt. You understand what I'm saying? And then, of course, you don't allow Boye Mafe to come and affect your quarterback by acquiring him. So yeah, while it's not perhaps a glaring need, I certainly like the pick. I still like the pick quite a bit. Right? So we have the Bucs on the board here, and Drew, I know this is your team, and I'm gonna do them justice. I'm gonna do them justice right here.
The right thing.
I love the acquisition of Shaq Mason. A little bit of a ski mask and shades situation as far as I'm concerned. Bring back Ryan Jensen. So what we thought was going to be a brand new interior offensive line ends up being one particular position, one guard position that needs to be addressed, which we can certainly work on. We don't necessarily have to address this right here. But on the defensive side of the ball, you've gotten a little longer in the tooth in some areas. I may have gone Mafe had he been on the board here. Mm-hmm. But in this case, I'm going to go with George Karlaftis. His flexibility. What I probably would prefer to see him as an edge and moonlight as an interior guy in an even man front, but I think he has the ability to play in an odd man front as a 5 technique as well. So let's go with George Karlaftis here. Best football still ahead of him. Okay, and guys, before I get into Green Bay's second first-round pick, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All right, so we have Green Bay Packers making their original selection, the 28th overall pick, with the first of 2 first-round picks, the one that they acquired in the trade for Devontae Adams. I went with Treylon Burks. I'm going to get a little bit more polished here. I'm going back to the well at receiver. I considered Tyler Linderbaum here, but I think he's a center. I don't want to kick Josh Myers out to guard. I believe he's also a center, so I decided against that. I think the Packers could use a third corner here. I think when you talk about the cornerback position, you need 3 starting caliber guys. Roger McCreary jumps out at me here, but I'm gonna go with Jahan Dotson here. I think there's a certain polish. I think there's a certain a skill set that would pair nicely with what Treylon Burks brings to the table. I gotta do some damage control associated with the Devontae Adams trade, man. I gotta give myself as many cuts, as many whacks at it in order to get the right guy in here, in order to get guys that Rodgers will trust. There will be some growing pains with these young receivers, but these guys are supremely talented, and I think Dotson might be his favorite target out the gate because he's a bit more polished than the aforementioned Treylon Burks.
Before we get to these last couple of picks, go ahead and like, subscribe, and comment. Make sure to hit the like button, share the video. Don't be selfish. You can hit the dislike button as well and let us know why you dislike it. But next up, we have the Kansas City Chiefs with the next 2 picks, with the 29th pick that they just acquired from the Miami Dolphins, who essentially they traded Tyreek Hill. Didn't want to pay him. We got Devontae Adams here. He's as Marlo would say, the price of the brick has gone up for the receiver position. And so, KC said, we're not paying that. So they traded him. They went out and they signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling, MVS, from the Packers, kind of swapped out there. So, and I still think they need a receiver. And I also think they need a corner. And I also think they need an edge player and a safety. I guess we could keep going. I'm going to get the best corner on the board at the moment. And Kyrie Elam, a man, physical corner. I know that, sometimes defensive coordinator for KC likes to leave the corners out on an island and do a bunch of stuff on the inside and do some crazy stuff, blitzing safeties and bringing people down in the box and doing all that crazy stuff. And so we're going to go ahead and give them a guy who can play on the outside. I think he can play a little inside too, but I prefer him on the outside on the perimeter, using the boundary as some help. And we're going to go ahead and get the Gator, Kyrie Elam, to manhandle his receivers on the outside. And then we're going to turn around, and I don't know that I like the receiving core as a whole for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't think I really liked it outside of the fact that they got a bunch of speed that was there before. I think that was the saving grace for that team. And now, with the fastest man in the NFL, arguably, somebody would say, gone, you got to replace that player. Not necessarily, you're not going to find a guy with that kind of speed at this point in the draft, but I think you can find a receiver that I like. There's actually 2 that I really do like, and I have a feeling that they're actually going to select Pickens because they're going to go with the upside, or they can go with the more polished and proven player in Christian Watson from North Dakota State. So Pickens from Georgia, or Christian Watson, who balled out in the Senior Bowl, and as far as I know, he had a good pro day, as far as if I remember correctly. Fact check me, hit me down in the comment section. And I'm gonna go with Casey. What Casey normally does is go with the sexy and Pickens. We're gonna go with that. We're gonna go with the upside player.
Speaking of this Tyreek Hill trade, ultimately what happened here was after the receiver market was reset with the Devontae Adams trade, and ultimately the Raiders making him the highest paid receiver of all time. The Tyreek Hill camp, they were in negotiation with Kansas City. It appeared that they were making some incremental progress. Maybe not, land. They weren't moving mountains per se, but certainly making incremental progress. And once that deal fell in place with Adams, they rethought it. And said, "Hey, listen, you're gonna have to break me off, man." You know what I'm saying? Like no one else in the NFL does what I can do. You understand what I'm saying? And then the question then becomes, how much is this going to ultimately impact Kansas City? Is it Mahomes who made Hill, or was it Hill who basically opened everything up for that offense in conjunction with, of course, a quarterback with Mahomes' talent? You know what I'm saying? So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But ultimately, that's the reason why he ends up in Miami. And of course, the Kansas City Chiefs add an additional first-round pick here.
All right, man. Next up, we got the Cincinnati Bengals, the team who went to the Super Bowl on the AFC side and lost it. And I'm disappointed for those guys. But I'm going to go – I was thinking going to Tyler Linderbaum because I know that they had signed, Alex Kappa and Ted Karras. Karras is playing the center position. They actually have an out after this year. Take $2 million of dead money doing that after this year. But I'm gonna hit a Yui.
Hit a Yui.
I'm gonna hit that detour. Bust a Yui, hit the detour, and I'm gonna go cornerback because that was an eyesore. And I know if I'm not mistaken, they brought back Eli Apple. Know some hurt Cincinnati Bengals fans. But I'm going to go cornerback, and I'm going to go Roger McCreary, a guy who I think can play inside and play outside.
I got my guy, man. Here I am thinking you're going to go McDuffie, and he got my guy, bro.
Nah, I'm going Roger McCreary, man. Let's get it, man. Guy who can play a little man, a little zone. He can do it all. And he can play inside, play outside, man. Let's get it, man. Roger McCreary, bro. Let's go.
All right.
Your guy.
Damn.
Go ahead, go McDuffie, man. Go ahead, go McDuffie for the Detroit Lions.
This guy. With the final pick of the first round, we have the Detroit Lions back on the clock. With the second overall pick, I selected Kayvon Thibodeau. I am firmly in that camp in terms of Thibodeau being one of the top 2 edge rushers off the board. You come back here, of course, the Lions could decide to go grab a quarterback if they like a Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Desmond Ridder. Potentially, get to play with that 5th-year option. That certainly is an option. There's part of me that wants to stash David Ojabo. You know what I'm saying? He had the unfortunate injury during his pro day. They don't expect Detroit to be a playoff team entering the season, but I do expect them to be competitive. But a guy that I think that can come in and contribute immediately, a couple of guys actually, Trent McDuffie and Daxton Hill, those are the 2 names that I'm looking at. I'm going to opt for McDuffie at this juncture. I'm going to opt for him. A little smaller, but I think he has all the tools. Best in zone. But when his eyes are on the quarterback, the way he attacks the line of scrimmage, I think he'll fit in very well with the culture that they're building there. And of course, his defensive coordinator is Aaron Glenn, who was an excellent corner in his own right, and again a smaller corner. So I think he will certainly be able to leverage McDuffie's talents there in Detroit. All right, Drew. So that's going to do it for our updated one round mock draft after the Tyreek Hill trade. Again, there have been so many moves, a flurry of moves, obviously free agency, the blockbuster trades going left and right, so many moving parts. This is perhaps the first mock draft where Tyler Linderbaum didn't go in the first round. Because like I said, there have been so many movements. We have so many teams with multiple first round picks. You understand what I'm saying? And just simply when you talk about the board matching the need, you have instances where a guy gets kind of pushed out. It's a little pushed out, man. So, Drew, anything you want to add?
Yeah, Tyler Linderbaum got pushed out because you didn't select him for the Arizona Cardinals. You selected Jordan Davis. That's what happened, bro.
You think so? You think so?
Yeah,
Listen. As much as I like Tyler Linderbaum, they still have Rodney Hunt. He's still under contract for a couple of years. I think they need a guard. I don't think Tyler Linderbaum is a guard at the next level. I think he can be a phenomenal center. So that's the reason why. That's the reason why I went in that particular direction. But I appreciate you, airing me out like that. I appreciate you.
Guys, let them know, man.
Guys, let us know how we did. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for Drew. This is Drew signing off.